you have any songs where you released that you were like, this is just like something I'm just gonna drop, but it's not my greatest stuff, but it ends up getting like a really, really good reception?
Yeah, I think I do. And not in like the sense where I was like, this is whatever. But it was kind of like, I felt like I was taking more of a creative risk, or like, I don't know if people are going to like this, just based on like what I'm doing in this particular song and based on what people have liked in the past.
Yeah.
And I've always found that it's met with, the more authentic you are to yourself, the more people like it. People want you to make the records you're going to make. They don't want you to make the records Drake is going to make. They already love Drake. And Drake is going to make the Drake songs. Yeah. You don't need to make the Drake songs. You need to make the you songs. Yeah. And people will like that. But it still like can feel like a risk. And so it's not really situations where I've been like surprised, like, oh, people love this. It's more like, your risk, you get that reward, right? If you take a risk. And it's actually not a risk. You're just being authentic.
Right.
But it feels like a risk.
Right. Yeah. No, that's facts, man. Like being like super authentic to yourself. And I found even some of my slow songs, like some of the songs that I have that are quote unquote, you call them like love songs, if you will. Yeah. Those are one of the like most vulnerable songs that I've created. And those are like, I'm like, oh, like I'll post it. Yeah. And like for me, it was a risk. Yeah. It was a risk of like, this is not really like hard hip hop bars like that I'm normally like dropping or something of that nature. Yeah. It's more like, oh, this is like a slower, talking about like my ex or talking about whatever. And those songs people like always bring up in my circle. Yeah. Like that was a dope track. That was the song that really got me. And I'm like, what about this boom bap like hard like bars, like this is not the one for you. The slow shit's the one for you, right? So I don't know.
I think it's easy to forget that everybody else is just like you, right? Like your favorite records are probably the most detailed and emotional and vulnerable records from an artist. Everybody loves, the club banger or the turn up song, but like all my favorite songs are the album cuts, and I think everybody's the same, right? And when you give people that, it's more interesting. Right? It's just hard because there's like this shock value, right? When you drop like a big like banger, you know what I mean? Right. And then you feed off that and you're like, oh, this is what people want from me, because you see that immediate reaction. Yeah. But it won't have the lasting effect that, something more personal and more genuine can have. Not always. I mean, it's easy to make a slow song that's absolutely boring. Nobody wants to listen to it. But the more personal you can get, I think people relate to that, and that's true of artists big and small. Yeah. No, that's facts, man. How has your sound evolved from day one, Conch, making beats, rapping? How has it evolved to today, 2023 Conch? I think that I have a confidence now in my abilities, that I'm focused more on the song. When I started, I was focused on showing what I could do. Like I wanted to flex that I could rap, rap fast, or like make beats that hit really hard or whatever. And so that was the focus. It was to impress, to have this shock and awe, to have this kind of like spectacle, right, is what I wanted. So my songs weren't as good. In my opinion, they were just exciting. Like they were more like moments than songs, because it was an attempt to showcase skill. And now I really care about songs. Like I want to make stuff that has strong foundations, strong writing, good arrangements that, can feel good in your everyday life. You can put it on while you're driving, while you're cooking, whatever. You don't have to put it on just to be like, listen to this shit. Yeah. Like that's what I was trying to make before. And now I want to make songs that people are like, oh yeah, this is my soundtrack. Like this is my shit that I put on. I'm not, when they pass me the aux, maybe I don't plug this in and go, listen, like check this out, right? Yeah. I would love to have those songs, but I'm more concerned now about creating songs that can last and that can become important to people. Yeah. And I think my sound has, just like talking about the actual sound of it, like I used to rap, now I'm mostly singing. I'm getting kind of back into like a rap kind of bag a little bit lately, but just yeah, more focus on structure, melody, arrangement. Like I want songs that are good songs, as opposed to like good moments or good showcases of my skill. I don't feel that I have to prove myself anymore as like a vocalist or a producer, and so now I can just focus on, you know, creating stuff that I feel like has a lot of value as far as replayability or, you know, personality or that kind of thing.
It's funny you say that, man, because I've been in that kind of zone over the last, I would say, the last 2 years. Because before I was the same way. It's like, all right, if I'm gonna rap, this is gonna be the hardest shit ever. You know, like the crazy bars and the whatever. And I've been in this now where it's like, all right, instead of dropping that one single a year that like will get the reception that I'm trying to get, and it's just bars, it's just hard rap, how do I make a holistic project? How do I make a song? How do I make songs where it, like you said, has replay value, has like, if someone listens to it, it's not just like, oh, he can rap, cool, this is cool, and then next, I want you to listen to it and have an audio experience, like when I listen to Cole, or you listen to some of these artists, and you're like, you want that shit on repeat. How do I make something of that nature and be proud of what I'm posting versus the spectacle? Yo, the flows, the crazy this and that and whatnot. So I'm in that kind of same mindset right now too.
And you told me that like storytelling is the biggest thing for you. Like when we've been in the studio, we've talked a lot about how you love concepts and how you love storytelling and narratives and stuff, and that stuff's so cool to me, when you can build something bigger and you need a larger body of work to accomplish that, right?
Absolutely.
You can't build a world and tell a story inside of one song usually, you know what I mean? Like there are examples of that, like long, you know, 6-7 minute songs where you get the whole, you know, it's a whole journey, and I love that too. But it's you can do more world building, more storytelling, when you go for that kind of longer format and focus on that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I'm leaning towards like the boom baps or the old school stuff, and going to my influences of guys that were making albums with skits, we're making albums with stories, we're making albums that have concepts in it and characters, and you know, even taking it back to like guys like Eminem, like the skits, the crazy skits. You're listening to this and you're taken to a world, like his world, that's like crazy and weird, but he's the one playing the character. You can tell it's M, and he's playing his mom, or he's playing a guy in the drive-through that he's you know. And for me, that's like, and maybe this relates to like film and video, but like that to me just gets me. It's like, it's one of those things of like, I want to now, how do I do that in my music versus before it was like, all right, I got to prove myself that I can rap. I'm not just this Edmonton artist that's like, he's amateur, I don't want that. And now it's different. Now it's like, no, I want to make music that someone listens to and is like, oh, wow, that sounded good. Not just from a rap standpoint, but like a musical standpoint. So a lot of guys can rap. How do you not just rap? How do you make music? You know what I mean? So
that's been my same focus now too. And the storytelling aspect of it only adds to that. And I think your point about how that relates to you with your videos and your films and that kind of stuff is so true, right? Like, you're a fan of narrative, you're a fan of things that feel cinematic, and you're a fan of, you know, seeing different perspectives, right? What does the world look like through the lens of this album, whether it's an Eminem album or a Jay-Z album? You know, what lens do I get when I listen to this, and what perspective do I get? And I love that. And then on top of that, you know, is it a jam, right? Do I want to listen to it? Do I want to throw this on in the car? You know, that all has to come together.
Absolutely, brother. I love that. Have you, as an artist, have you tampered with any other art forms, like video or graphics or anything in the other spaces? Yeah,
I do all my own album artwork. For the most part, there's a couple covers that I haven't done myself, but I mostly make my own artwork.
Oh, interesting.
Which is like super fun for me, and I love that because I don't like promote that I do that. it's no pressure for me, right? If I make a cool cover and I'm proud of it, it's just like kind of a little hobby, but it like relates to the music. But there's, you know, there's pressure and there's work with the music, right?
Right.
The artwork, I get a little creative outlet where I just, you know, that's just for me, right? That's fun. I want to make something that looks dope, but like if nobody knows that I made it, I don't care.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? I'm not
yeah.
trying to be a graphic designer.
No, for sure.
So I do make my own album artwork, and then I have directed a couple of my videos. You know, wrote the shot list, wrote the concept and the treatment and all that. But I've never shot any of my own videos or edited them. I've done like, you know, I can edit like a little beat video that I made or whatever. So I get those kind of creative outlets in small chunks, but it's nice to have something that's just for you on the side of it, because I feel like you shouldn't try to monetize everything that you do for joy, because it can take the joy out of it. And even with the music, I'll make music that I know I'll never release, and I'm just like, I'm sitting down, I'm like, let me just make like a EDM, like a dance track right now, because I love that, and I don't care, you know, what happens to it. I'm not assigning any pressure on this, like, oh, this has to be a big record, or how am I going to promote this? Like, let me just create and enjoy. And there's a lot of beauty in that. So I guess that, I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, no, I feel the same way. As like when you dabble in certain different areas that you're not, you know, familiar with, or even just like it's something for yourself. Like you said, it doesn't have to be, I gotta do this and like I gotta make this and that. The podcast is the same way, man. That's how we started. We wanted to genuinely just have dope conversations because that's what we love. That's what we want to do. Okay, we're not thinking about monetizing. We've just in our 4th, 5th year now thought of, okay, maybe we should get maybe a sponsor. It'd be cool to like get a coffee sponsor during the pod. That'd be dope, right? But we're not. We were just like, let's have dope conversations with dope people. That was the initials. I don't want to like make this into like a thing. Maybe now after 5 years in the game. But it didn't start that way of like, let's just try it. Let's just have conversations. See if we can even do this podcast for a month. Let's see if we can actually be consistent with it. So
did you ever have this experience like when you did something well and other people took notice, they would immediately tell you like, oh, you should try to make something out of that. You should make a career out of that. That's what you should be doing.
Always.
You're good at that, right? Like in any realm, right? Could be, you know, you get 100% on a math test and people go, okay, well, are you going to become an accountant, or are you going to become an engineer or whatever, right? An accountant.
You should be an accountant.
But like, or, you know, you're in drama class and they're like, oh, you should be an actor or whatever, right? And I don't know if it's like Western culture, like obsession with working or whatever. There's this like push to monetize anything that you can do. Or make a career out of anything you can do. And I really don't like that, because it can take the joy out of it like right away.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? If I had, when I made my first song, made it with the, you know, idea that I needed to make a career, I would never have continued, right? I would have said, okay, well, this song flopped and sucks, and I have to do the next thing. But it was just like this passion, right? And that should come later, if it ever comes at all. There's things that I enjoy so much, like films are huge for me. And I don't want to be an actor or a director or whatever. I mean, those things would all be cool to be, but I'm not like trying to do that. But I love film and movies, and that's just, you know, for me, I get so much joy out of that, and if I started trying to work on it, I know that would go away.
That's facts. And I feel like it's because of our hustle culture that we have, where everything's quick and everything's like quick money, quick this, quick that, and you know, I'm in the mentality of slowing down. Like, slow down. Just try. Just try this thing. Don't worry about the outcome. Don't worry about it. Just if it doesn't turn into money making, fuck it. Like, it doesn't matter, right? Like, just try it. Slow down. Experiment. Fail. Be okay to fail. Be okay, whatever failure is to you. You know what I mean? Like, try it. If it's something that you love and want, you'll find out after 3 months, after the honeymoon phase is over. The podcast was the same way. Let's just try it. Let's get the cameras that we have at the time and get the lights that we have. Let's just see if we can have a conversation with someone.
Right.
Bring them into the studio, have that experience. Let's see what we can do, and don't think about it blowing up. And this was at a time actually before podcasts blew up. That's the thing. Like we were at a point where the only guy that was in the space was like Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
And then like as we were doing it, you started to see this ramp up of like all these people are having these podcasts, and sometimes that kind of got into our head of like, oh, do we need to change shit now? Like, do we need to like ramp up and do different things? Because you're like, oh my god, like this person's starting a podcast, and then you see these guys like getting deals, like $100 million deals or deals with Barstool Sports or whatever, and you're like, oh my god, like
we got to do that.
Yeah, and it's
but
you kind of get
to do that
exactly. And then I was like, you know what, Kenny, like let's take a step back. Like it'd be dope to have the bright lights and the money and all that. That'd be awesome. Yeah, it'd be cool to make money off your pod, but let's try to pull it back. Why did we start this in the first place? Where do we want to go with it? Yeah, slow down a little bit before we start to look at businesses to sponsor the pod or whatever the case may be. So yeah, I'm in that zone of slow down. Yeah, it's a nice place to be, and it takes time to get there. But I have the similar thing in the studio. There's a feeling I get if I make something that I think is good. It's this irreplaceable, like it's the best feeling in the world, and it's this moment that I'm always chasing. You know what I mean? I could get, the biggest response I've ever gotten for a song, and it would feel great, but it wouldn't match that feeling that I got when I was in the studio making it. And that's why I keep going back to the studio every day, because there's that feeling. I'm at the desk, something clicks, and I just have to like stand up and walk around the studio a little bit. Yeah. Because it's so like, you're like, oh shit. Like, I just made something that I think I would actually want to listen to. Yeah, facts. And they're like, damn, this is so beautiful. And so I chased that, and it took me a while to figure out that was the thing that I was actually chasing. Right. I thought I was chasing all these other things, but what I was actually chasing is that joy in process that I get, and it's still the best feeling in the world to me. Absolutely. Yeah. That moment that clicks, or like you've made something that you're like, oh my God.
Great stories are timeless. To be a great storyteller, one must bridge the gap between an alluring narrative and the audience, to pull at the heartstrings and to shape the imagination. At Q Films Media, we're more than just a media production agency. We are a powerhouse of creative individuals, content creators, who specialize in telling great stories. Stories that are intimate and kept closest to the heart. Stories that are powerful and inspiring, that spark boldness and action. We are Q Films Media. We're here to tell your story. We are always unseen.
I remember actually last year I did a single with a guy named Avi, and he came from Vancouver. Yeah, he's an artist from Vancouver. He's a mutual friend of ours, of Kenny's, and never met this guy. Knew he had some bars. I was like, okay, cool. Let's set up a studio time. Let's go. And went to a friend's studio and met him like on the driveway. Oh, okay. I was like, yo, what's up, man? Yeah. We're about to do this single, right? Yeah. It's so funny. Like, and I had my bars ready to go, this and that. We get into the studio. And he's like, okay, you go first. Like, record your verse that you have. Here's the beat, whatever. So I record my verse. And I'm like, bro, like, where's, like, you have some stuff, right? He's like, yeah. Like, and so I'm recording my first, like, my verse. I record it. And I'm like, all right, bro, it's your turn. He's like, okay, give me an hour. And I was like, give you an hour? Yeah. Like, what? And he's like, because his process of writing is like in the studio. Okay, yeah. So I was like, oh, because I'm usually like, I have to prep my bars and like write it and take the time to like, iron out the wrinkles and whatnot. And he puts it in his headphones. I'm sitting in the back of the studio. I'm just chilling with a few of the other guys. An hour goes by. Yeah. And I'm like, what is this guy doing, right? He takes off his headphones and he's like, I got it.
Mm-hmm.
And he also dabbles in producing and whatnot.
Okay.
So he was piecing his recording onto the beat.
Mm-hmm.
And he presses play.
Yeah.
And the music starts to play.
Mm-hmm.
And he had chopped up my verse with his.
Okay.
So you know how like some songs where it's like I'll rap a few bars, then the other rapper raps a few bars.
Yeah.
It kind of goes back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
He did that. And I had no idea that he was going to do this.
Okay.
And he played it, and I lost it, bro.
Yeah.
I was like, what? This sounds insane. In that moment, the greatest feeling ever.
Right.
It's like, oh shit, this is crazy.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. And you have to try to appreciate that when you're in it, because it's so easy to zoom out of that. And right, you had the greatest feeling in the world when you heard the rough draft of the track. Let's say it comes out and it doesn't, meet your expectations. Yeah. Now you're going to associate negativity with that song.
Yeah, facts.
When you should hold on to the beauty that you know
moment,
what I mean, right?
That moment, yeah.
You already won in that moment.
Yeah. No, that's facts, bro. That's facts. And I just remember those moments of like, I don't know what's called, eureka, or like just like the light bulb like went off and you're like, oh my God, this sounds good.
Yeah.
Like to me, it sounds great.
Yeah.
Like, holy shit. Like we made something that I've never met this guy before. Like we just kind of spontaneously went into this studio. So I cherish those moments a lot.
Absolutely. And it's cool that he's one of those guys. I love those guys, right? Because they know what they're about to do when they get the headphones on.
Yeah.
Like he's not worried that he's like gonna disappoint you. He's like, let me just cook in silence for an hour and blow these guys' minds.
Yeah.
He probably does that at every studio session he goes to.
Exactly.
Yeah, he knows exactly what he's doing. Yeah. And he lives for that too, right? And he lives not only for those moments, but he probably loves to give other people those moments, right? Absolutely. If he's the guy who put the headphones on and be like, okay, I'm gonna get these guys, like I'm gonna sneak attack them with like some dope shit
Absolutely.
that they're not ready for. And I relate to that a little bit too. When I get like a new artist in the studio who maybe doesn't really know what all the possibilities are, like how their voice can sound, I like to like run through my steps of making them sound dope without playing anything for a little bit, and then hit play and wait, right? Because I know, or you pull the beat out, or you like slow the beat down or whatever, and it's coming, and they don't know you're gonna surprise them, and then I'm just like over my shoulder, like I know they're about to jump off the couch when this shit hits, and that's awesome. Like
that's the greatest feeling, man. Honestly, it's so sweet. Let's talk about some of your music, man. You just dropped a single.
Yes, you always.
It's funny because me and Adriel actually on the way to the studio, we were listening to it.
Okay.
And we're like, oh shit, this shit's a banger, bro. It sounds clean. Talk to me about the single itself. Yeah. How did it come about? You also have a feature on there as well. Let's talk about that.
Yeah. So I think it's definitely the most like straight up pop record that I've ever done. There's no bars on it. It's all melody. The hook is very danceable. The hook is literally me singing "ooh," like there's not even words in the hook. And so that was fun, and that was fun to experiment with and push. Like, okay, can I make a song that's basically like pure pop that I still really vibe with? And I think that I was able to do that. And I'm really proud of the song. It's got this upbeat, bright, kind of colorful sound. And it's one that I've had sitting for a while. I made it, I think my first session on it would have been 2 years ago, probably during the pandemic.
Oh, wow. 2 years ago.
Yep. Yeah. Oh, wow. It's that old. Yeah.
Okay.
And so I've had a couple different variations of this song. The chorus was a little bit different. There was, this and that. But I produced everything on it. So I played all the parts and all that. And then the second verse, I didn't know what to do. And I had 2 years ago at that point, I had just started working with this artist who goes by Lise. I knew her as Lisa then. And she was coming to the studio and just like blowing my mind with the stuff that she was bringing in as a vocalist and an arranger and, doing harmonies and a composer. Like she was just like, oh my God, like the talent was unbelievable. And so around the time that I had started working on this song, I had started working with her. And so it was kind of a no-brainer for me to say, hey, you want to jump on this? Like, I want your voice on this.
Absolutely.
You've got a brilliant, amazing voice. This song is more pop leaning, which is more, towards what I've heard from you. She was stoked to do it as well, which was awesome. And so it's funny because I've been working with her for a couple years on her stuff, and I've had that song sitting around for 2 years. So you know, our relationship is, you know, 2 years old, right? We know each other, but this is the first time that we're getting like a piece of art that's like both of us as the artist, right? I've mixed on some of her stuff and produced on some of her stuff, but like this is our first true collaboration where we're both artists. And yeah, her verse is probably my favorite part of the song. And I feel like she just like got in this pocket that like I wasn't even imagining, right? When I asked her to do it, I had an idea of what she was capable of, and so I had a kind of picture in my head of what she might sound like on the song, and she went totally left from what I was anticipating, and it was even better than I could have, you know, asked for, and I was just so stoked when I heard what she was doing.
That's awesome, bro.
Yeah,
that's awesome. It's like you said, it's sweet when you have those moments of like you don't know, and then she goes left field, and all of a sudden it's like, whoa, right? Like that. So obviously you had that, and when did you complete the song? Like how did it kind of wrap up?
I think the song's been like totally finished. I think I've had it since November last year. So I took my time with it for sure. Yeah. I had it probably like 80% like a year ago. Yeah. And then I just kind of let it sit there while I was doing other stuff because I'm working on a longer project too.
Details to come.
Yeah, details to come. Can't talk too much about that right now, but just know that there was some other things going on.
That's right. That's right.
And so yeah, it was just kind of sitting, and I actually got it mastered by Brad Smith from Velveteen, and this was the first time that I'd had somebody work on my music from a mix master standpoint since Dunna had basically taught me to do it myself. So it had been, you know, a few years since I'd had outside hands on the mix and master of my stuff. Right. And I was like, you know what, let me just, because it had been sitting for so long, right? I was like, I've kind of exercised every angle that I can with this, and I still don't feel like it's done. Let me pass this off to somebody else to bring it across the finish line. And I'm so glad I did that, because the master that he did on it is just phenomenal. Like, it sounds great, and it's not something that I could have done to it, which is awesome. And, you know, I'm always trying to push myself. I have a little bit of an issue where I try to do everything myself. And when I got his master back, I was just like, oh yeah, no, I wasn't going to bring it there. Yeah. Like, you and your experience and your ears allowed you to bring it there, and I don't have that, and I'm so glad that I had that input.
Are you more open to that now? Because I know for me, when I started, it was like, this shit's mine, right?
Yeah.
Like, no, like, this is how I'm doing things, I'm obviously way more open than I was when I started, but is that kind of the same for you, or have you always been open to kind of have other individuals influence some of your music, or have you always just been kind of in your bag, your pocket, your vision?
Yeah. I've always been collaborative, but I've always wanted the final say. So like, if it was a situation of like, maybe Dunna would be like, well, you know, the mix would sound better if I did this, and I'd say, you know, I get it and I respect it, that's how you feel, but like, turn the 808 up or whatever, right? Like,
facts.
And now I'm more, you know, I have less possessiveness over the work, and I just want it to be as good as it can be. Gotcha. And I think that I have developed my ears to a point where I can hear stuff that I didn't hear before. Where I can see, oh, okay, you took it there, and I see why that's better. Whereas before, like, I'd be like, well, that's not how I envisioned it, so it must be worse. But now I can kind of, you know, I have more open ears, I guess.
Yeah, no, that's fact. I'm sure that's probably helped with, you know, being able to produce your own stuff, right? But also just the years of experience that come that way. Yeah. How has producing influenced, or has it influenced the way you write, the way you sing, rap, anything like that? Have those correlated at all, or are they kind of their own separate lanes? Like,
absolutely, they have. As I grow as a producer, I think that I grow as a writer and an arranger in the same way, because when you're producing, you're writing music. You're not writing words, but you're still writing, and those things translate for sure. And it's especially helped me as a singer. melodyning vocals. I don't know if you have experience with that, or
I do not.
So it's like a manual pitch correction software called Melodyne, and it's how you can correct somebody's pitch, you can correct their vibrato, you can correct basically everything, and it's less obvious than like something like auto-tune, where it's just like doing it automatically. It's an actual manual, like it's more for pop records or R&B or stuff like that, right? Where you don't necessarily want to hear that auto-tune sound. You want to hear like a natural vocal.
Okay.
And I do that on a ton of the songs that I work on for myself, for other people. And so I was melodyning day in and day out at the studio. And then I realized I was becoming a better singer because I was developing my understanding of intervals and, you know, okay, this note is 3 notes higher than that note, but what does that actually sound like? What does that actually mean, right? And so working on this pitch correction actually helped me improve my own pitch in a weird way, right? And that I didn't expect it. And now I'm like, oh, I can do stuff vocally that I couldn't before because of my understanding, because of actually working on pitch correction and not actually singing.
Right.
I became a better singer in a roundabout way. Obviously, the best thing to become better at something is to actually do that thing. But it's interesting that there's all this crossover, right? I'm a better singer because I'm a better vocal tuner.
Right. No, I love that, man. That's interesting. It's very interesting. It's funny because I could take it back just personally for me when I started writing, my raps and how to piece raps together that would fit on the beat in the pocket, right? And not make it like the flow off. Yeah. And how do you get that flow? And that was one of the things that I struggled with for a long time. But I figured out syllables. Yeah. Right? All right. If the syllables match from bar to bar, okay, now I have to make words that fit within the syllables. So I used to count my syllables. My first 2 years, I used to count my syllables to make sure that they fit in the pocket. Yeah.
That's a beautiful dedication too, right? To be like, to acknowledge like, okay, maybe this flow isn't quite right. How do I break it down? Like, what's the math? What's the count?
Literally, man. That's exactly what I used to do. It's so funny because I'd be sitting there like with my fingers like, and then like, okay, no, that doesn't, I have to remove a word. I have to, to fit. Okay, now it fits. But this last word doesn't sound right. This has 2 extra syllables, and I'd like break it down like that to a point. I got to a point where now when I write, I don't have to count my syllables.
Yeah, it's internal
now, but those reps of like doing it has allowed me to, now I feel like I have a decent flow and it's works.
And once you understand the rules, you can start to break them and have a little bit of fun, right? Maybe you add a pause here, or your flow, it switches up here, or there's a little internal rhyme, right? Once you're comfortable just counting it out, okay, it has to be this, I know that. And then once you are good with that, you can go, but it could also be this, right? It could also be, I could do this. And it's so fun as you add tools to your tool belt with the creativity where you're like, okay, well, before everything matched, now I can put these little imperfections in or these little intricacies and make it more interesting, make it more exciting.
100%, man. I would break down like, a Kendrick song or a Kendrick verse or a J. Cole verse. Yeah. And I would listen to the songs and then I would like pause at places where they would switch up their flow. Yeah. In the middle of their verse. And I'd be like, oh shit, that pause, that made it so much better. Like, how do you feel the word? It wouldn't have like hit as hard. Absolutely. Or like that flow switch or like even like tone of voice. Yeah. Or like delivery.
That's huge.
Or like, and I mean, we're getting into like meat and potatoes of a song, but like laughing in certain places or adding certain sounds or this and that. It's like, once you start to like obviously being in the music scene, I guess, and you start to listen to songs, you're like, you start to peel the layers a little bit more than just listening. Yeah. And you're like, oh shit, like Cole did this, that added that much, that song just made it that much better. Yeah. Based off that creativity.
I love that like self-referential, like, and I love that in hip hop, and that's probably why I think it's it's the best genre ever, because hip hop songs are aware that they're songs. Does that make sense? Like a pop song's just a song. The singer's not like referencing how he's singing a song. Right. He just sings the song. Yeah. Usually. Yeah. But a hip hop song, you get, there's little sound effects, or like the guy talks about, I'm in the studio right now, right? You never heard Coldplay, like Chris Martin, be like, I'm in the studio in a song.
Never.
he just sings his song, which is great. But I love like cinema and narrative like you do, and so it's cool. Like they're breaking the fourth wall almost, like within the song, and that's so cool, and it's so referential, right? This guy might take a flow from this other song, and it's not stealing, he's not biting, like it's homage, like it's done on purpose, right? Kendrick does that all the time. Kendrick will insert like Jay-Z lines into his songs all the time, and it's like an evolution of that line. Right, he's carrying the torch. It's so awesome.
It is, man. It is. Those little intricacies. That's why it made me fall in love with that. With the music itself. And now I'm at a point in my life where I'm like, how do I incorporate that? How do I do that in a way where? How do I add characters? How do I add skits? How do I story tell? How do I add the stuff that I used to love? But now that I've been able to break it down from an artist perspective, and it's like, okay, cool. Let's take the time, slow it down, take the time. Let's, and figure it out and see what picture I want to paint with these songs now.
Absolutely. And you can get bored too, right? Like let's say you're counting out your bars, you get good at that, and you're like, okay, well, I can rap now. Let me add a character. Let me change the tone of voice. Like, let me give myself a little challenge to keep going.
That's right.
Which is super fun.
Yeah, absolutely, bro. Absolutely. Before we wrap up the pod, man, I wanna ask you, do you have any tips and advice for artists, for singers, anyone who's in the space who maybe they're from Edmonton and they're exploring their sound and maybe they want to take it to the next level? Any advice for creatives or artists?
I think and I kind of touched on this before, but finishing the work is so important. Finishing the songs, don't just sketch forever. Do what you can with what you've got where you're at, and then build from there. So make the bad song, make 100 bad songs. I made some of the worst music you could ever listen to in your life. I promise you. Some of my original music is awful. It's terrible. If it ever leaks, I'm done for. But I made it, right? And then it allowed me to be better. So do that. Make the thing that you want to make, even if it's not where you wish it would be yet, and be honest about that with yourself too. Working in the studio, I see a lot of people come in who, they don't have the practice in yet, they don't have the time in yet, their skills not quite where they want it to be, and they can be a little bit delusional about that. You know what I mean? Be honest with yourself about your skills. That's the only way to improve them. If you're in denial about how good of a song you can make, you'll never make a better song. So just be honest and try to get honest feedback, and that's how you build and that's how you grow. I think that would be my advice.
I love that, man. I totally agree with that. What's next for Conch, man? What do you got in the pipeline? I mean, we're not gonna drop everything yet, but what do you got going on? What's next for you, brother? So we just dropped You Always. I'm going to be promoting that for the next little while, and then I'm going to have more singles coming out this year, maybe a bigger project, maybe a show. I'm not promising anything other than it's going to be a busy year for me. I'm going to be active and doing a lot. I've kind of, been taking it easy as far as releasing goes. I've been working, but this year I'm going to start, putting some of the stuff out that I've been keeping in the vault. Awesome, brother. Where can people find you if they want to connect with you? Where can people find you? Your plugins.
I'm on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, pretty much everywhere. It's OK Conch is my handle on every site. I'm on Spotify, Apple Music. I got a bunch of music videos out on YouTube. There's a ton of content pretty much anywhere you would find it. Just search OK Conch, and you'll find me there. And, find a bunch of stuff to dive into. Maybe you'll like the old stuff.
Absolutely, brother. I appreciate you, man. This was an honor having you in the studio, man.
Yeah, man.
Fun.
This was great.
This was fun, man. I enjoy talking about hip hop music, just art in general. So this was fun, man.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, bro.
Awesome, brother. Well, that's a wrap, guys. If you enjoyed that episode, make sure to review us on Spotify, Apple Music, and we'll see you guys next week.